What is happening? And welcome to another four-wheel drive talk episode. And friends, holy smokes, it has been 2 years. 2 glorious years with this Turtleback Expedition trailer. And now we're going to do a long-term review. I'm going to break down in this video, I'm going to break down a lot of your questions that I've seen come across with regards to the Turtleback and what it's been like owning this thing. I'm going to share with you how it has changed the way I go heading out. I'm going to share with you things I like, things that I really like, and I'm going to share with you things I don't like about the trailer. So if you are on the fence, you're thinking about an expedition trailer, you're thinking about a Turtleback trailer, you may be thinking about, well, heck, do I want to go with one of their getaways or do I want to go with their expedition? You're not quite sure, you're on the fence. This is going to be a video that you're going to want to watch. Now, of course, we put these videos together to help you make educated decisions. And so, of course, if you find some value with this video, friend, you would be doing me a huge favor by crushing the hell out of that like button down below. That said, my friends, pull up a seat in. Hey, it's that time. Let's go. All right, I'm still floored. It's been 2 years. Wow. And this trailer has really changed the way that I get out and camping. And now, if this is the first video that you've watched on my channel here, let me get you up to speed in terms of where we are right now today. So 2 years ago, I started searching around, probably similar to you. I mean, there's a lot of options out there, and it's really, when you're first getting started with a search like this, there's really a lot to process. There's really a lot of options that you really have to factor through. And one of the things, if there's one single recommendation that I can make here, is take a pen and paper and write down all the things that you want, the things that you really absolutely need to have in a trailer. Write down what you plan to do with it. And then from there, that's going to be a good starting point, because I spent literally, it was a little bit over 6 months researching the hell out of different manufacturers that make these trailers. And ultimately, there were a lot of very good reasons why I ended up going with Turtleback. Now, one of the big reasons, of course, is they're made in the USA. I had the opportunity to really meet with the owners, and I really liked where the company's compass was pointed. Then, of course, you know, as I'm going to take a deep dive here momentarily, the features and the modularity and what these people were doing with this kind of framework, this box. There was so much scalability that could be done. And between that and the various amenities in the trailer itself, that really fueled my decision to move forward with this particular company itself. But you know what, as I'm talking about this here, why am I talking about a Turtleback, about my trailer here inside my studio? You know what we need? You know what? Hey, I have a great idea. Let's go get my son. Let's pull the trailer out of the garage and let's go do this, finish up this review outside. Let's go. Come on. Okay, after 2 years of owning this thing, one of the more common questions I get asked quite often is, what is my favorite feature of owning one of these Turtleback Expedition trailers? And while this thing is really loaded, one of the most kind of standout features is, of course, what's behind this door right here. Now, if you've seen these Turtlebacks, you know exactly what's behind here. This is the kitchen. And when heading out, you know, I shared earlier the kind of hinting towards how has owning this trailer changed how we get out and camp and so forth. And one of them is I enjoy cooking, and this thing is really packed full of features in terms of cooking. So it is Friday morning, Veterans Day right now. So of course we just went out to a local campsite. It was only 20 minutes down the road, O'Neill Regional Park. And if you're in the area, for what it is, a established campground, it's really it's a pretty cool campsite. So definitely highly recommend. But a little humor to the story here. If you've watched some of my prior videos, you know I have a bad tendency of getting into camp late, which it wasn't so much late that we got here yesterday, but it was after dark. And again,
This morning I woke up and a particular odor that I was smelling, and right on the front side of this here, again, this is a established campground. That's the dumping station for the RVs over there. So I noticed that just a minute ago as I saw an RV over there with that ominous orange red pipe going down into the ground, and so they're pumping their sewage out of their RVs over there. Turn it off! Luckily nobody's there right now, but we have today, it's no fancy cooking, but what we are going to be doing is biscuits and gravy peak refuel. And so I'm going to share with you as I'm prepping, actually I'm just going to be boiling water, but I'm going to talk about, again, my favorite feature of this trailer, which of course is the kitchen. So you have this big old door right here. Open it up, it locks over on the side here. And as you can see, on both sides, you have two large stainless steel tables, which from a prep standpoint gives you a lot of options for when you're cooking, prepping, and especially if you have a larger group of people that you're going to be cooking for. To extend the kitchen, you have two little yellow knobs on both sides. Pull that out, and then you have a cook partner. This is a 2-burner 10,000 BTU, it's actually 20,000 BTU total stove. Now this thing is absolutely insane. I've been in some really windy situations. In a minute you'll hear me fire this thing up and it sounds like a jet boiling. I mean, it really, a jet boiling, a jet taking off. But this thing really kicks ass. It does have a couple wind guards on it, although frankly speaking, I very rarely use them. And it just dawned on me, I have to turn on the propane. And these trailers come with a safety circuit, which of course I'm going to crank on right now. Let's see. Okay, so with the safety circuit engaged, it's going to allow me to turn on the propane, and that's another item, that's how they have this wired in here, is if the flame is going and I pull out one of these, there's a switch in the back that's automatically going to kill the safety circuit so you don't accidentally burn the underside of your shelves. And what I need here are two items, water and a measuring cup, of course, to be able to do that right. But while we have this open, there's a ton of storage, and going back to what makes a kitchen is having the space to store your plates, I have coffee pots, all sorts of stuff sitting in here. And then you have another row that comes out. So, and there's lots of organization. So they have these little inserts here, which you can adjust as you see fit. And it just dawned on me as I'm pulling this out, I'm going to mess up some of the things that I have in there, but you can get a sense of just how much storage that you have in here. And okay, so to crank on this, you have a safety switch over here. So every time you open up one of these drawers, it's going to trip that safety circuit. So you're going to have to hit that little switch over here, turn on the gas, and boom, that is going. Now, again, I'm just going to take you guys along for the ride as I'm jibber-jabbering about, we need some boiling water for these biscuits and gravy that we're going to make here, so might as well, 2 birds, 1 stone. So, and the cool part about this stove here is if you're in heavy winds, it doesn't take long to boil water. You have a this is a deep sink here, which I don't have the water on right now, but considering the Turtleback does have a hot water heater that's on the passenger side here, it takes about 15 minutes for the water to get heated up. And that's, of course, is really nice when you're out camping and so forth. Again, we're talking about how this has changed the way that I camp. Having hot water when you're doing your dishes or this or that makes a big difference in cutting down grease, doing your dishes and all that other fun stuff, and also washing your hands. On the back side of this here, there is a lot of storage up on the top of this. Now this is generally where I keep things like my awning walls. I keep my tailgate or tire table up there. There's a privacy tent. I have just a lot of the stuff that's not going to be affected by weather and so forth. And so this works out really well in terms of just having added storage. On both sides of the back, you have 2 USB slots. On this side, you have a 12-volt plug there. You have the oh so important bottle opener on this side. On right behind here, you have the inlet for the 42-gallon water tank. And you can actually plug that into, like, if you're in an established campground and there's a spigot right there. So if I had a hose, I could run the hose directly into this here, and it will pull the water directly out of that into here. And let's see. One thing I do want to point out here as well is on the back side, which this actually worked out really well last night. As I mentioned, I got here late. Well, not late, but again, the sun was down, it was already dark, so backing into this spot here, obviously my reverse lights on the truck are not going to do squat with this trailer here, so I'm able to turn the reverse lights on the trailer, and these 2 rigid lights here illuminate really well, making it easy to back safely in and see where the hell you're going. Underneath the sink, you have more storage, which again, I just keep various things like the dish soap, and usually have spray cleaner. And on this side is where I keep all the utensils, cutting boards, and stuff like that. So again, you're talking about a tremendous amount of utility, space, modularity. And early on in the video, I shared with you, I spent about 6 months researching and looking at various different trailers and so forth. And one of the things I really admired about what these guys do here is just the modularity. And you're going to hear me talking about that quite a bit here. They're constantly adding. There's a lot of things that you can add. I've seen people add seasoning racks over on this side right here, which is really cool. So again, a tremendous amount of space. And then last but not least, while we're talking about the back end here, there is a hose, which I don't have it hooked up right now, that I can put underneath the sink, and that can route the gray water that's coming out of the sink from doing the dishes and so forth. But we have 2 lights underneath here. That's on the kitchen circuit, so if it's dark out and so forth, you have various different circuits from a lighting standpoint that you can control the different lights throughout or around the trailer, which again makes it very comfortable, makes it very easy to get out and enjoy and have control without using in excess of electricity or lights that you don't need. A buddy of mine, he shifted his lights from white to red, which of course is really nice. I think I'll probably add a red circuit here coming into the summer months. The red is important because when you get out in areas that might have a lot of bugs and so forth, the white lights, they do attract bugs, and having the red lights there, well, mosquitoes, flies, and all that other, the little critters that go buzzing around at night, they don't care for the red as much, so and it actually looks pretty cool as well. But again, going back to over the course of the last 2 years, having this big kitchen space here, I'll usually use this for cooking, pots, pans, stuff like that on there, and usually I'll have like a scuttle that I will have kind of free floating somewhere behind, and I'll use that for the main entree, or the Camp Chef Pro 30, which many of you guys have seen it. Sometimes depending upon what I'm going to be heading out with, if I'm in the mood for cooking pizzas, that thing has the module on top of it where I can cook pizzas, or it has the grill. So between this for pots and pans and stuff that you want to cook on in a pot or pan, that's fantastic. And there's 2 burners again, as I mentioned. And then with depending upon if I'm using a scuttle or if I'm using the Camp Chef, just a lot of cooking options. So you have this entire space back here, and it works out really well. And right now the water is already up to 160 degrees. And so, as I mentioned, this thing really cooks really well. So favorite feature of a Turtleback trailer, hands down, the kitchen. Now what we're going to do is, I think to make this review a little bit easy, I'm just going to kind of, as the morning moves along, I'm going to bounce around to different sides and so forth and share with you. So the next side we're going to be jumping to is the driver's side of the trailer, and we're going to break down from a storage standpoint. The main brain of the trailer is over on the driver's side, which includes, right now I'm running the Red Arc Manager 30 Red Vision, and that's basically the brain of the trailer itself. And this was an upgrade that I did, and Turtleback does offer it as an option, but it's a little pricey, and you may question, well, do I really need it? And I'll share with you the pros and cons. I mean, the only con with it is the price tag of it. There's so many pros with it. For example, it's funny because I was sharing with a buddy who came out with us last night as well. I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning and realized I had forgotten to turn off the lights. And so with the Red Arc Manager 30, I can control the lights and everything with the electrical system right from my phone. So I was able to shut off all the lights from that circuit, or I'm sorry, from up inside the tent without having to step foot out of the tent itself. I ended up having to step out of the tent anyways because I had to use the restroom. But still, I'm able to control everything up in the tent as well from my phone. So that's the rear side of the trailer, and my favorite feature of this Turtleback Expedition trailer. Okay, coming over to the driver's side of the trailer here. So this, as I shared with you, well, actually, as you're seeing this is my typical setup when I go out. I've shared in a prior video, one of the first things that I do when I get set up on location is I set up my tire table, or tailgater tire table, and I'll have my portable power. In this case, I have my coffee. This was actually my workstation this morning, so I'm doing some work on a video that actually will be uploading here in a few hours. And the height of the table works out really well. Now, before I dive into what's behind here, I am running a larger tire on the trailer itself. I want to say these things come stock with a 31-inch. I'm running a 33-inch Milestar Patagonia MT2, which I put out a video about a month ago on that. These tires are really rocking it. And one thing, not to get far off on topic with this, but if you're considering a trailer, especially when you're going with a larger wheel or a larger tire, you have that larger mass that's spinning around, which puts more strain on your tow vehicle. These Milestars, because the outer rim, which is kind of like a hybrid MT / all-terrain tire, that center rim there really creates a less friction. I find it easier to tow the trailer with these tires on here than when I had the Nittos on there. And so anyways, that's that. Now, one thing I do want to point out on here, we're talking about how owning this trailer has changed or impacted the way that I go camping. And one of them is, we're talking about a lot of redundancy. There's 2 propane tanks. This is a 10-pounder, and on the other side, there's a 5-pound propane tank. Now, this one is plumbed into the partner stove that you saw a moment ago. So that's plumbed into that, and also on the other side, which we'll talk about here momentarily, is a hot water. There's a Dominic hot water heater that runs off of propane itself. So that tank is running where the house needs or the trailer needs propane. So that's conveniently located, and as I mentioned on the other side, which when we get over there, I'll point that out, that's a smaller 5-pound tank. Now, I have seen people mount on their back tailgate, which I'll circle back around when we get to the back of there, larger tanks. So that's based on discretion, how much propane that you're going to be using and so forth. But on the front, in front of the wheel well here, there's this ledge which does work out really nice. So if I'm needing to climb up onto the tent or do this, it's obviously designed to be stepping on. And the top of this here has that diamond plate as well, though I don't really need to get up there too often. When I had the other tent on there, this one actually overhangs a little bit here, so there's really not much room to go stepping up here, but it's great for additional shelf. Now, before I crack this open, the latches, each of these have locks, so if you have items that you want to have secure, you're able to do so. Lock things up. And all right, so this is how it is. I didn't go cleaning it up, keeping this as real as possible here. So as you can see, there's a lot of storage, and that's really good, especially if we're talking about you're heading out. You want to have as much items that you, the kind of those creature comforts and those little tidbits. So I have a lot of lights, I have a lot of solar, fire starting stuff, throwing knives, and there's a knife fans, all sorts of stuff in there. Fire extinguisher, which actually comes from Turtleback that way. And this is the main box, what I was mentioning a moment ago, that controls the entire electrical system on the trailer. Now this is a upgrade. Turtleback has a switch set up here, and I'll put it on the screen right now so you can see what it looked like when I originally got it. And so this is the Red Arc Manager 30 Red Vision. So this thing is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely love this. I'll have a separate video coming up on this, but this allows me to monitor, control everything electrical inside the system, from the USB ports, the safety circuit, the water, literally A to Z. And you can actually get sensors that can go in the water tank. There's a 42-gallon water tank inside this trailer here, which is a tremendous amount of water when you factor in the size of this thing here. So the fact that you have a 42-gallon water tank in there, and I want to say the hot water heater holds either 6 or 8 gallons of water in there as well. So again, everything, you have another 12-volt plug here. You have 2 USB plugs right here. And I believe, yep, although I never use these over here, there's a couple more. There's one additional 12-volt plug, and 2 additional USB plugs right on the side as well. Now the entire box here is in a weathered seal. There's a heavy-duty weather seal that goes around there. So if you're driving in rain or just crappy weather or so forth, it's going to keep everything inside there really dry. And it's funny because the doors on these here have that same weather sealing, and I've heard people forging through deep water and no water making itself inside or finding its way inside the trailer itself. Now in the front you have this kind of block. It's with the rough texture, and so this is kind of like a stone guard against your box here. And then of course you have that same kind of, I think it's like Rhino spray or Linex spray that they're using on this, which if you have larger wheels, that's kicking up dirt, brush, or you're just hitting branches along the trails that you're going to, which been there, done that many times, that's going to protect the box itself, add a little bit more durability, which, I mean, these things are steel. I mean, you're not really going to much do harm if you go whacking these things with branches, unless it's a big ass branch. That could be a different story. This right here, I believe this is, I forgot the composite that they use with this, but this could be used as a cutting board. You have these 2 heavy cables, and so yeah, this works out really great. So this is usually when I get to location, this is where I'm going to set up camp in terms of my workstation, because a lot of times I go out, all of my camera equipment out here charging through all the different ports here, or I'll be editing a video, and depending on whether I want to sit or stand, I will either use my tailgate or tire table, or I'll just set up on this thing right here, and it works really well from just a utility standpoint. So again, going back, the common theme here is I want to inform you guys, how have I been able to use this trailer? How has it changed the way that I go camping? It's just a convenience level that there's so many nooks and crannies in that modularity that I spoke to about earlier that really makes, man, picking up this trailer versus some of the other options out there such a big win. And then shifting gears over here, now these Molly panels, when I first picked this up, these were originally solid, and honestly I can't recall if these are an upgrade right now or if they're coming standard. But if they don't come standard, then you can pick up these Molly panels, which from a storage standpoint, you can pick up these bags. Now this one I have toiletries, this one I have trash bags in, I have a first aid kit down here. You can pretty much hang what you want on these things. And when we get on the other side, you'll see that I hang my knives and axes on these. And then we'll dive into the main storage here. Now when the trailers come out, there's nothing in there. So you have this big massive cavity that you can store pretty much whatever you want. Now I have a 61 liter Snowmaster refrigerator in there that pretty much takes up most of the space. And yeah, so let's dive into the other side and we'll continue on with little nooks and crannies and things that I really enjoy about this trailer. Okay, so now we're on the passenger side of the Turtleback Expedition trailer. And again, one of the things I was talking about earlier that really stands out about these things is the tremendous amount of storage. Now, when you move this tire forward right here, you have additional more storage right on this side here. Of course, it is a mess, but this actually cavity will go down up into underneath the water heater, so you can actually store additional items up underneath there as well. And so as you can tell, I'm not going to even begin to explain what I have stored in here because it's a mashup of pretty much just about anything you can imagine that I would need. And so earlier I mentioned that there's a hot water heater, and this is a Dominic, it's a actually I'm pretty sure it's a 6-gallon hot water heater. This thing takes about 15 minutes to heat up, and when it does heat up, you know, kind of word of caution, it does get very hot. And actually, as an additional word of caution, if you decide to put a awning onto your Turtleback, and I'm talking from experience with this here, last year I think it was, we had a family trip up to Lake Kushima, I can never pronounce it correctly, up in Santa Barbara. So I'm packing camp up and I put the awning, start bringing the awning down, and the awning's coming down in a triangle like this, and I'm smelling something burning, and it hit just like that. What was burning was this right here, which is the heat output for the heater, I'm sorry, for the hot water heater, burnt a hole in the back end of my awning. And so that word of caution, make sure that your hot water heater is off plenty of time to cool off if you plan to put your awning away, because it will melt, it will burn whatever it touches, including your hands if you so-called get close enough. Now, as I mentioned to you a moment ago, there is a secondary propane tank on the trailer itself. And so you can see tucked in here nice and neat is a small 5-pound propane tank, which is quite convenient. So if you have like a propane fire pit or this or that, or you just happen to be out and you run out of propane for your main tank over there, you can swap that out. Again, on this side, we have sharing with you the molly panels and just a different variety of things that you can put on. These are all my knives and axes and so forth. And one thing I didn't point out, there's a secondary set of lights that go all the way around the Turtleback itself. So here's a good example of this. Makes it very convenient. So when you're getting onto camp, so they have this additional slide that you can pick up, and as you can see, this pulls my fridge all the way out, and I can open that up. Actually, it is shimmied forward just a little bit here. There we go. There we go. So it will clear the light just a bit there. So the slide is really fantastic because, of course, it gets the fridge out of there, makes things a lot easier to access and so forth. Again, this is a 61-liter Snowmaster fridge, and so it's a big fridge, and it is a lifesaver. So talking about how things make it convenient for when and getting out and so forth, having this large of a fridge really does make a world of difference. And so going on to, or shifting gears, awnings are a separate added item. This is the Rhino Rack Batwing. I'm on the fence about this. While I have not had any particular problems with it other than my own stupidity when I closed it on the hot water heater there, I know a handful of people that have problems with the knuckles because they make the knuckles out of a composite. A buddy of mine had it on his getaway trailer, and we were out actually filming a video to share with you folks, and we were launching the awning, and a small little gust of wind came by and knocked, or actually snapped the arms off the awning itself, the little brackets that hold that out there. So, but you can see that fits really nicely. There's these bars that allow this to kind of go up and down, and you can select your height from there. This is the back tailgate arm itself, so you can mount a spare. So you can put, as I understand, you could put up to a 35-inch tire on these things. I'm running a 33. I think 35 just gets a little big. I have a couple 8-gallon roto packs fuel on here, which have, you watched some of my prior videos, you know those have saved my ass plenty of times. But if you don't want to run a roto pack on there, I know people that will run the additional propane tank on there as well. Okay, so now I want to shift gears a little bit to the inside storage. So off to the left here, that same light that you saw out here, there's an interior light there as well. So when it's dark, you have the ability, again, with the Red Arc, or actually even with the stock electrical system that they have with these things, you have flexibility and control over all the specific lights, including the interior lights itself. Now up to the right here, I keep talking about there's a ton of electrical ports all over. There's a 12-volt cigarette lighter and additional 2 USB ports right off to the left here, which is great and convenient if you're going to run a fridge. So I'm going to pull this out and you can get a sense of just how much space is actually in here. So underneath my fridge, there's that cavity here, and I have some additional axes and some additional oddball things that are stored in the bottom underneath this here. And you have a turtle stencil in the back panel here, which allows you to see kind of water levels. So if you don't have sensors that are going to show you water levels, you can turn on, they have what's called turtle lights, and it illuminates the green light underneath, I think it's underneath or behind the water tank, which allows you to see kind of water levels. Again, 42 gallons in this thing, so we're talking about a tremendous amount of water inside this thing. That is pretty much it for the passenger side. Okay, closing things off is the nose of the trailer. Again, I'm talking about a tremendous amount of storage that these things have. Actual very usable space. So, and also the theme of this here, how has owning this Turtleback Expedition trailer changed the way that I camp? And by hands down, there's a few things up here that weren't part of the trailer when I picked it up. And so if you're deciding or think about getting a trailer, I'm going to I have to recommend this because of just game changer that this has been here. Actually, part of this review, I'm going to share a few accessories that I've added on to my Turtleback that have changed, just have been big impact for me. Although I did a video a few weeks ago, so you want to take a look at that. 15 mods, top 15 or 12 modifications I've done to my Turtleback Expedition trailer. But up here I have 2 100 amp hour Ultimatron lithium batteries, and now these things are fantastic because they have heaters in them, so when we do our cold weather trips, this is powering everything. We have the main brain of the Red Arc system up here. I have a 2,000 watt inverter over here, and a tractor picking up stones here. So if it's not the motorcycles going by, it's a random tractor coming into close, well, not exactly in the frame, but I'm sure you can hear it right now. So we'll wait a minute for that too.
Few moments later.
Okay, so going back to one of my favorite features of this Turtleback trailer that I've added in here is I have this Planner 2 kilowatt diesel heater mounted in the front of this thing here. And what I do is when I get to location, and this is the pipe that you can see here that goes running up into the tent, and there's additional wire here, which is the thermostat that goes up there. This thing is fantastic. On the front here, I'm just simply using a 2.5 gallon Rotopack that's holding enough diesel in here that I can run this thing for a solid 3 to 4 days, depending upon how much I'm actually utilizing or using it when I get to location. And so I've shared this in many videos in the past. What I do is quite simple. When I get to location, I take out this hose, run it up into the tent, run the thermostat up in there, and I set the thermostat to what I need to, and it keeps, like last night, got down to 38 degrees inside the tent. I accidentally didn't set the thermostat correctly. It was 80. I woke up at 3 a.m. It was 80 degrees in there. But going back to this nose here, you have a tremendous amount of storage that you can have your, in this case, batteries. I have my heater, I have my inverter, I have the brain of the Red Arc in here, and I usually keep extension cords, the hose to the heater going up in here, and just kind of random things that I'll put in here. And of course, as I mentioned a moment ago, you have these locks all over. Now, this is extremely durable metal, and I will actually get on here. You can see little bits of scratch marks on here. I don't know whether many people are stepping on this, but it is extremely durable, and if I need to get up on top of the tent for whatever reason, I'm just stepping onto this. Now, another point that I want to point out, you have that light. Again, I'm talking about you have lights going around this thing. Right here, You have your hot and cold water. So this is another big thing I absolutely love about these trailers is you can pick up a privacy tent and you can use that for either a restroom. This will swing out right over to here, and you can use it for a shower or a restroom. And having a little one, which is going to be one of the things I'm going to point out in a minute here, how this trailer has really impacted the way that I go out camping is relating to my son. But speaking of him, now when we go out, he's playing around, he's getting dirty, so this allows actually everybody to get a shower, a nice warm shower, before getting up into the tent itself at night for rest. That's absolutely fantastic. And I've said this before, when I first picked this up, I was like, do I really want a shower? Yeah. 2 years later, I can tell you that is a game changer. That is a well-appreciated feature that they put into these things. Now, on the front here, I think it's appropriate to point out a couple things about this trailer as well. You have a max coupler hitch on here, which allows for great articulation and so forth as I'm towing it with my Jeep. The tongue weight of this thing, I'm not sure what it is. I think it's right around, it's either 130, I think it's 130 pounds. It's not much. And a lot of that's going to depend upon how much crap that you have in the nose of your trailer itself. But I can easily shimmy this thing around, picking it up and moving it around. And having that big old tire on the back of it kind of behind the axle is going to help on that a little bit. And I have noticed if I have fuel in my Rotopacks back there, that obviously is going to make the nose of this a lot lighter as well. Now underneath, what makes these trailers extremely unique as well, you have an Icon independent suspension underneath these things, which again, wherever this Jeep can go, I can go tugging this thing, and we've been in some pretty crazy locations where this thing is bouncing all over, and the suspension really does help quite a bit. All right, now I'm going to shift gears here and talk about another common question that I get with regards to the Turtleback Expedition trailer, and that is, how has it been towing it? How responsive has it been? And so I'm driving a 2020 Jeep Gladiator, as the V6 gas engine. So this thing's not exactly a powerhouse to begin with. Now I did change the gears from the 411s to 488s, and I put a throttle management system into here, which makes it a little bit more responsive and so forth when towing or just driving, period. But with regards to towing, this thing really tracks nice on the when I'm going down at highway speeds, and we're on a canyon road right now, and it just really, it follows wherever the Jeep's going. Now, one thing I do want to point is I've been on some pretty gnarly off-road trips and so forth, and towing that, even still, again, this thing weighs, I think the dry weight is like 1850-ish. No, that's actually before all the stuff was put on. So probably about 2,400 pounds with everything that I have loaded up on this thing right now. So again, it tows really nice, which is a big plus, especially these days when fuel prices are where they are. It's nice that something tows easily because it obviously conserves fuel in the tow vehicle itself. So there you go. Okay, so as we wrap up this 2-year review, now I want to get into kind of the high-level stuff, the really important stuff that as a owner really means the most to me. Many of you know, you've seen him in my videos. I have a 7.5-year-old son, Caleb. He's my best friend, my co-pilot. He loves getting out camping. Now, we live in a kind of a concrete bubble, and while I grew up out in the country, seeing him really take a grasp on a camping, really enjoying it, looking forward to it, Daddy, when are we getting out, really means a lot, but so does his safety. So when getting out, be able to, like, when we're, like if we're up in Big Bear, you know, there's predators around there and so forth. When we go camping, the ability to be up above off the ground, away from snakes, spiders, or whatever else may be crawling around on the ground is a big deal at night. So from a safety standpoint, I really like that. And for him, this is like a big gigantic tree fort on wheels for him, so he absolutely loves it. But going back over to the core of what this trailer has really done is it has allowed me the opportunity to be able to head out with my son, enjoy camping, have a lot of those creature comforts where he can be comfortable, I can be comfortable, I have his safety in mind, and it's a rig that allows us to really get into a lot of places that if you're in a RV or a fifth wheel or this or that, you're not going to be able to get to many of the locations that we're able to get these things out to. And that allows us to really see some of the most beautiful, I want to say untouched, but untouched by the majority of the population, which these days with everything getting all congested, this and that, that's a plus because it just allows you to get out into real nature where there's no cell phone. And I know where you guys are leading. Well,
Alex, don't you head out with a Starlink?
yeah, okay, I do have a lot of creature comforts. That's the plus with these trailers. There's so much storage that I have the spare room, and plus, obviously, running my companies, I need to have internet. Yeah, that's going to be my excuse why I have that. But at any rate, the Turtleback has been a lot of fun. This year we've done quite a handful of fun and exciting trips. And last but not least, so this year actually headed out for the first Turtleback herd event that I've been on to. Now, while we've been invited to, no, that's right, we went to Death Valley. That was last year. But we only attended just for a few days. But we went out to Northern Grand Canyon. That was a Turtleback herd event. And the one thing that I want to close off with here that I really, really enjoyed about this company is they really focus on community and they really focus on building memories. That herd event was a tremendous amount of fun, that Northern trip. And I know I have video footage. It's one of those videos I've joked around that I'm scared of. And the reason for that is it's occupying like 2.8 terabytes of data on my computer. There's just a tremendous amount of footage. And one of these days I gotta put that footage and I'm going to share that trip with you folks. But that was so much fun. It was so well organized. And at the end, they had everybody around this big campfire, propane fires at that point. And they had a projector screen and they were playing videos of the entire event. And it was all about it. To me, I walked away with, they did such a great job building memories, allowing people, families to build memories with their kids. And that's something that I value and I found very important. And it just kind of solidifies that decision going with this particular company for my expedition trailer needs. Expedition trailer. You get what I mean. Anyways, friends, this was a fun video to put together. I really wanted to take a lot of the questions that you guys have had. I've been getting a lot of questions in terms of when am I going to do a updated walkthrough? When am I going to point out things? I get a lot of questions. What do you like most about it? We see a lot of questions in terms of how does the suspension really hold up? And the suspension is rock solid. Actually, another question I've had, which I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is I was going to share with you my cons. Guys, after 2 years of owning this thing, the only con, and this is really pulling it out, the only con that I have is there's a reflector on the back of this thing that because of the big oversized tire that I put onto this thing, it hit the reflector, and after months of continuously hitting the reflector, which is on there just by double-sided tape, it fell off. And so I reached out to Turtleback and they sent me a new one, although I haven't put it on. Jeez, that's so 6 months ago. And at any rate, that's the only thing I've had go wrong with this trailer. Again, that was just because of me. No, actually, I had burnt a hole in my awning, but both of these incidents are things that because of what I did. But at any rate, friends, I hope this review is helpful if you're on the fence with regards to a Turtleback. The cool part about it is this is a 2020. My buddy has a 2022, and when you look at the amenities that they've put from my version to his, these guys are constantly reinventing and really putting a lot of thought into how these trailers are heading out and how people are really enjoying them. So anyway, if you're on the fence or if you have any additional questions on these Turtleback trailers, but you certainly leave a comment down below. But I'm going to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, watching this video here, supporting the channel. I really am humbled that you guys have taken time and watched, and I hope I provided some value. And speaking of which, if you found some value, do me a favor, hit that like button down below if you're currently not subscribed to the channel. Would love to have you part of the family. And last but not least, hit that bell so that you're notified every single time that we come out with a video just like this. Well, friends, I'm gonna go see what my son is doing. So I'm gonna be shutting off this camera, so you get out there, stay healthy, and take your best shot. Or not take your best shot. That's for my closing line for photography talk. Get out there and find your adventure.